care about our kids. It's important.
And one of the unique things that I noticed in talking to you, you stated that you're not from the Peoria area.
That is correct.
And yet you have a really invested interest in regards to how the community turns out. Unfortunately, we may not see that that often. It seems like some people who are from Peoria don't have that much of an invested interest in terms of making this better. So what do you think sparks your interest? Is it because some of the things you're seeing?
Yes, it is because some of the things I've seen, some of the things that I've done, the decisions that I've made, decisions of those close to me who are affected by things such as violence and crimes related.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. I also feel as though on that note that really I have nieces here, you know, and even if they weren't here, when I've been tutoring in the area for quite some time, and when I first moved here, I tutored at a site down by the Harrison area, and I just noticed then that the kids had a very strong lack of respect, and then I also noticed at that point that the parents were very combative as well with authoritarians when it comes to regards to the school or after school programs. So that was something that was a difference from my neighborhood where I'm from versus here.
Another question, in regards to the marches, where have you gone so far this year in regards to the locations for these marches, and are some future plans?
Absolutely. We're on our 7th march as of today. Yes,
right.
sir, 7th march. So our future marches will include, I know this Saturday we have one coming up at Manual. So we've covered so far the original Harrison Home area. We've also covered the MLK area. So we hit Village Green, River West, and the surrounding area. I think we went all the way down towards First Street on that march. And then our 3rd march would have been in the Taft. We covered the Taft Homes area. We've also went to the Lexington. We've been out to the Aspen. We have covered Logan Park area. And again, this weekend we're looking to cover the Manual Manlers.
Okay, good. So in regards to community support, what are you noticing different about the first march that you've done according to the marches that you're currently doing now? Are numbers increasing, support happening for you all?
Yes, absolutely. I heard on our first march, because again I was absent.
Yes.
But I heard on our first march we did pretty good numbers. We had about 10 to 12 people.
Okay.
Our 2nd march, it was about 22.
Okay.
Our 3rd march, we were at about 50.
All right.
And our Taft march was our largest so far. I really hate to put a number on it, but it was at least 85 people I know.
That's good. That's good.
Because I had a sheet, I know when we have the people were able to sign the sheet, as many joined in as we were marching.
Exactly.
So it was a blessing.
And the great part about that is the numbers, you know, what some people look at. But if one person shows up and they're trying to make a difference, that's all we really care about.
Yes, I feel like if I reached one,
Exactly.
I can teach one.
Exactly, exactly.
That is our chant.
In regards to how can someone get in contact with you all to find out what future things you all are going to be doing as well?
That's a great question. I personally can be reached at 309-685-9198. I also have an assistant as well. Her name is Tammy Graham. She can be reached at 678-0044. But basically, we basically want to have people also contact Net Nathan or Howard Nathan. They're also very aware of where we're marching and future events that go on along with the march. Howard's number is 453-8633, and Net is at 206-1777.
Now, in regards to collaborations, are there any collaborations you all are currently looking at to help people in regards to what's going on in their lives and that will combat some of the violence that they're doing? because we know that jobs are, with the economy how it is and education how it is. Are there anything that you all as a network are working on?
Absolutely. We've got plenty of projects coming up in place. Howard was talking about getting together some children and teaching them about motorcycles, as one of his uncles has a bike shop.
Okay.
So they're in the process of putting that together. I have also collaborated with Glen Oak Automotive. They're located on Prospect. We're going to put together a 4-week program as well for children who want to learn about automobiles. Change tires, alternators, and things of that nature, brakes. We're also looking to put together, actually I already have a group of kids who I get together at once a week, normally on Wednesdays or Thursdays. I normally let the crowd vote, and then I send a notice home with them to their parents. But we meet and we pick up the trash on the East Bluff. Okay. We call them the little litter critters.
Oh, wow. That is great.
So we've got that program as well. We also normally meet on Tuesdays at 7 at Tammy Graham's house. She's located at 718 West Eleanor. It's right off the corner of Sheridan and Eleanor. And that's an anti-violence group meeting. We call it the block unit because it's not limited to one block. We actually are neighbors from all over the city, and we meet about problems in the city and how we can address them. We don't want to address them in a negative way or a way that the public won't accept. But we definitely want to aggressively address the problem.
Wow, you are a very busy lady, and I truly am happy that you have chosen to come to Peoria and try to make some change here.
Thank you.
You are more than welcome to come back to Captions anytime.
Thank you.
This was a great conversation. What we're going to do right now, we're going to pause for a break. We'll be right back here on Captions. Welcome back to Captions. My name is Lamar Anderson, sitting in for Mr. Andre Bohannon, and we're actually going to be talking about fire prevention today. I want to welcome our guest here to Captions, Miss Melanie Anderson. She's actually the Division Chief of Fire Prevention here for the Peoria Fire Department. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson.
You're more than welcome. There's a few different things that we want to touch on with the heat as hot as it is, and everyone's trying to bear the heat. But in regards to fires, first and foremost, let's tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and who you are and how you came to be in your position with the Peoria Fire Department.
I've been on the Peoria Fire Department since 1983, a long time.
Okay.
And over the years, I have been promoted and progressed through the different ranks. My current rank is Division Chief of Fire Prevention. And what that means is that I'm in charge of pretty much everything to do with the fire department except the firefighters. So I oversee our investigators, our inspectors, our hazardous materials inspectors, and the EMS portion of the fire department. It's also my responsibility to make sure that any public information, community activities, fire prevention, safety talks, recruitment, all of that is funneled through my desk.
Wow, you have a lot on your shoulders.
Yes, I do.
So you're pretty busy, especially with the summer?
I stay extremely busy in the summer. I think I've been working about the last 8 days or so in a row. I'm doing a detail out at the fair for fire safety, and again, I also have the neighborhood associations and the different agencies. We make sure that we go and talk to them. If a company wants us to do an evacuation plan, we go and sit down with them. We do fire drills with individuals that call us. So I have a big variety.
So the next transition probably will be when schools start and getting into the schools, talking to fire safety, that type of thing. Is that correct?
Correct. We have found that talking to young people is the best way to administer fire safety. And we actually start at a pretty young age. We have dedicate the month of October to Fire Prevention Month. We are in the schools constantly. We do fire drills in all of the schools, and we also do fire safety presentations. Not in just the schools, but we also do daycares. And again, any function that somebody would want us to appear at to promote fire safety, we'd be happy to appear.
Okay. And we all have noticed in Peoria as well as across the country, the United States is in a drought. Everyone is in need of a lot of rain. and fires are starting in regards to brush fires because of the grass and everything being so dry. What are some things that we can currently do to prevent some of these types of things from happening to homes?
In the city of Peoria, we don't even allow open burning, and we haven't allowed it for probably 35, 40 years, but people still will break up a pile of leaves and set it on fire. And what we're seeing is that a lot of these fires have been started by individuals who are just not paying attention to what they're not supposed to be doing. A fire can start very small. You think you have it under control. The wind whips it up and it carries a piece of that firebrand to someplace else, and it gets out of control very quickly. We also have, at this particular time, we have a ban on recreational fires that need a permit. Recreational fires that need a permit are your bigger fires, your fires that there's a set criteria. There's some that don't need a permit. For example, if you have the home fireplace outside, we don't need a permit for that. Or you're grilling, you don't need a permit. But for the bigger fires, you actually should have a permit, and we have put a ban on those for the time being based on the weather. You can't really control Mother Nature, and it's extremely hard to put out a fire that has caught your grass or some wooded area. People don't realize that a lit cigarette has been the cause of many of these wildfires that we read about in the paper, and it can start very quickly. A cigarette doesn't go out because you throw it out of the car. It stays lit for some time, and it can sit in dry brush or dry grass and set it on fire, and then it can get out of control. When we're talking about grilling, you should always have a bucket of water or a hose, something pretty close. You know, again, you don't want to put anything within 10 feet of anything that can burn, meaning it shouldn't be within 10 feet of your home, your fencing, your garage, anything that can burn, just so you can do it safely. I know most of us saw the fire in Bartonville about a week and a half ago, and according to the resident, they threw charcoal out next to the building. Charcoal is worse than a cigarette because it still burns. You have to put charcoal and things like that out completely. Leave the charcoal in the unit.
Okay.
Close it up. And if you don't want to put it out with water, you have to close it up, leave it closed. And again, keeping animals away from it so they don't tilt it over, keeping the children away from it so they're not playing around it, and definitely having some water close by so that you can put out anything that may drop through.
Great information. Now, in regards to the Peoria area, you said there's not a burn ordinance in Peoria. There's a ban that we cannot burn anything in Peoria. And when you say Peoria, are you talking about the city, county? What's the general area? Because we want to make sure everyone knows.
That's a very good question. The only area that we have authority over would be the city limits, the city of Peoria, because you can actually burn in Peoria Heights, in West Peoria, and probably in the county. But so we're only talking about the city of Peoria. When I was a kid, we could burn garbage. We could just put it in the backyard and throw. But we have found that it's a very dangerous practice and can get away from you.
And you also alluded in regard to the fact in terms of grilling. Everyone has their barbecue grills out. It's the summertime. So when we are out grilling, what are some other things? I understand you were talking about having a bucket of water and making sure the fire is enclosed. But after grilling, what are some of the main things you want to make sure we focus on so we don't have any of these accidents?
Okay, even before grilling, pay attention to the wind, because if it's too windy, you shouldn't be trying to set a fire. That's, like I said, that will take it out of your hands. You know, very few people sit there and watch a food cooking on a grill. They put it on the grill, they shut it up, then they go do something else. Well, in the meantime, that wind has whipped up, and it may have taken parts of the fire someplace where you don't even realize it has been. The other thing I have seen, a lot of individuals who live in apartments and have balconies want to grill on those balconies. That's against the law. You cannot grill on a wood balcony without having sprinklers overhead, and very few have sprinklers overhead. So you have to take that grill, and it's a hassle. You have to take that grill outside on the main ground area at least 10 feet away from anything combustible. So after we're grilling, again, making sure that anything that is on fire is confined. It helps if you put it out with your hose line and you make sure that it's completely out. It's very hard with charcoal, yes, because without getting in there stirring it up, but you'd be all right if you put it out, close it up, and leave it there at least a day.
Okay.
At least a day. You know, don't try throwing it in the backyard or in the alley or anything because you can start a fire.
Wow. I think you probably have informed a lot of people of something that they had no clue about. Let's talk a little bit about indoor fires, and what are some of the type of calls you're receiving in regards to apartments as well as homes in regards to the cause of indoor fires?
The most common cause of indoor fires and the highest percentage of fires which have injuries associated with them are cooking fires. And usually it's unattended cooking fires. You go put something on, then you get busy, you forget you have it cooking. Some of us like to keep grease in a pot on the stove because we're reusing it.
No.
This can be very dangerous in the fact that you don't know what to do when that catches fire, because it's going to catch fire. The easiest way to tell somebody what to do when a grease fire happens on their stove is to always have a lid, a top to put over that pan or pot that you're cooking in and cover it. It'd be great if you had an extinguisher. But if you don't, cover it, turn the fire off, and then if it's still going beyond your control, call the fire department. But the main thing is covering it. Do not put water on anything on fire on the stove. Do not throw flour on something.
Okay.
All you're doing will be spreading the fire, and it can get away from you very quickly. Inside, the other thing is having your smoke detectors up to date. Okay. You don't need a smoke detector right in the kitchen. What happens is that when the food gets cooking, it sets it off, and then you take the batteries out. You want to put it around on the other side of the kitchen, close to it, but not so that it's getting the direct smoke from your food. Gotcha. So you need to make sure you have your smoke detectors up to date with working batteries inside. Smoke detectors save lives. It's the bottom line.
Okay. Now you alluded to something a little bit as well. You talked about fire extinguishers. Now, many people have fire extinguishers, but may not know how to use fire extinguishers. Is there some tips that you can provide for us in regards to what type of fire extinguisher we should be having? What's the use for, what types of fires those fire extinguishers put out, those types of things?
Fire extinguishers are excellent to be used, especially in the kitchen, but they do have a limit. The only size fire extinguisher you really want to buy for your personal use is about a 5-pound extinguisher, probably about that big. Okay. And there is a really easy acronym that you can use to remember what you have to do when you're utilizing a fire extinguisher. It's called PASS. It's pull the pin. There's a pin on it that holds the handle steady so that it doesn't activate when you don't need it. The A stands for aim. You're going to pull the pin and you're holding the lever. You're going to aim the hose at what you need to shoot at. Okay. The S stands for spray. So the handle is just like a lever. You're going to depress the lever. You're aiming the hose at, say, the pan on the stove. So spray. And the last S is for sweep. Sweeping means you're going to move that hose side to side. You don't want to just stand up there and just shoot at a fire, because there is enough pressure coming out of that unit to actually push the fire out of the pot. So when I say sweep, the way extinguishers work, they want to extinguish the fire. They want to smother it. So you're just really sweeping it side to side, being able to put the product on. It's a dry chemical type product. They're called ABC type extinguishers. Okay. Don't cost a whole lot, available at Walmart. The critical issue there is do not try to use an extinguisher on something that you're not going to be able to put out. That extinguisher is only good for the pot that's on fire, not the whole stove. Or for a small garbage can that you may have dropped a cigarette in, not the wall behind the garbage can. So anything bigger than that, don't try to waste time putting out the fire. We get numerous calls where the fire is blowing out the back window, but you spent 10 minutes trying to put it out.
Okay.
Call the fire department first.
So is there a certain time
Get us
limit
right.
that someone should be trying to fight a fire?
If you can't put that out in about 10 seconds, which is what that extinguisher will do, if you can't put it out in 10 seconds, you're not going to put it out.
Gotcha.
And call the fire department. Again, and it's something, if you don't practice it, you might not remember what to do. You're going to be panicking. Call the fire department first anyway,
Yes.
before you're trying to mess with. Get the fire department rolling.
That's great to know. In regards to individuals, what are some things during this particular drought that individuals can do to make sure that we're taking care of each other?
Oh, that's a good point. Because what I always try to teach everyone is that not only are you taking care of everybody in your family, but make sure you take care of your neighbors. If you have elderly neighbors, it's not going to hurt to check in on them occasionally. When we are at this hot period of time, everybody doesn't have air conditioning. And I know as you get older, a lot of elderly people may have air conditioning, but they don't use it. And not realizing what that heat is doing to them. The children in your home, a lot of times if they're out playing, you don't have to tell them, come inside for a minute and sit down. It typically in this weather, and I mean it's hot out there.
Yes, it is.
I wouldn't let anybody play outside more than a half hour, 20 minutes to a half hour before they come inside, take a breather, get some water. Water is the best thing to use.
I'm glad you're saying that.
To hydrate. Water, and it's not after you're so hot and overheated. You need to drink it before you even go outside. People think that sodas are something, anything wet. They all don't work the same. A lot of your sodas have caffeine in them. Caffeine is actually working against you as far as keeping you hydrated. So the old-fashioned Kool-Aid works pretty good.
Yeah.
If you just can't get the water down, get some type of fluids in them. There's a lot of warning signs you can look at when it comes to your children playing outside. If your face is flushed and red, if you're sweating profusely, it's time to come in and sit down for a minute. If your skin is hot to the touch, if you are confused and not sure about what's going on, that may even become a medical issue. You have to determine what's going on. If I'm talking to you and you're not answering me, making sense, that can turn into what we call heat exhaustion, and it can turn into a medical issue where you actually have to call the doctor. Or heat stroke would be the next issue, where you have individuals who have been out in the hot weather, fell asleep for whatever reason, and may even go into seizure.
Now, you talked a little bit about the elderly. You also talked about middle age and children. But what about babies? What are some things that we can do to help in regards to for infants and toddlers?
Babies can't tell you that I'm hot. So it's critical that you pay attention to their environment. It's also critical that you never ever leave babies or even pets in a hot car because you're running in to pay a bill or to pick up something from the grocery store or running an errand that you may think is a very short period of time. My truck was parked outside yesterday and the temperature inside was about maybe 112. Wow. You know, this can kill babies and animals. So there's no time that can be short enough that will allow you to leave anyone inside of a parked vehicle. Wow.
Now, are there any cooling centers around Peoria? If so, what are some of the locations for cooling centers?
Anytime the weather has been in the plus 90s, the city of Peoria will activate what we call our cooling center program. And all of the fire departments, all of our firehouses are considered cooling centers, meaning you can come in and cool off for a short period of time. If you're not sure where your closest firehouse is, you may call 494-8700.
Could you repeat that one more time, please?
That's our non-emergency number, 494-8700.
Thank you.
That's also the number to use for smoke detectors if you don't have smoke detectors. We do that also. But the other thing is that somehow I don't want to go to the firehouse. Well, we have the mall. There are a lot of public. We have the library. They're all air conditioned. So there's a lot of public buildings, accessible buildings that you should be able to visit. Make sure that you don't just sit into a house and it's extremely hot.
Well, I definitely want to thank you for sharing all of this information. Hopefully our community will gain from the knowledge that you provided for us. You're more than welcome to come back to Captions anytime. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate the offer.
Thank you all for tuning in to Captions. I'm your host again, Lamar Rotorua Anderson, and we'll see you next time right here on Captions.